Friday, 2 days before Christmas, and happy holidays to all my viewers out there. So today I thought I'd change things up a little bit and let's talk motorcycles, especially winterizing, winter projects, how to keep your bike in tip-top shape while it's snowing outside and you're not able to ride. So today I'm going to give you guys about 5 or 7 tips that I've learned over the years in terms of how to maintain your bike. And also, if you're doing a motorcycle project this winter, whether it's a chopper, a cafe racer, or any kind of bike, I got a couple little tips for you that I learned over the years, over the 2 years it took me to build Lil Wing here, which is my 1977 chopper. So hopefully that'll be a little informative for you. So without further ado, let's get right into the video and I'll give you some tips of the trade and also some techniques here in terms of what to do during the winter months when you can't ride to keep your bike in tip-top shape. All right, thanks for watching Realty Rides, guys. Let's begin. Lil Wing 77 Ironhead Sportster that I built 8 years ago. It took me 2 years to build. It's a wonderful bike. I ride it all the time. But after 8 years, the battery went dead. And believe it or not, batteries do last a long time on these bikes. And it took me 8 years and it finally went dead. So it occurred to me to kind of show you guys the simplicity of an old school chopper. I mean, this is what you call relatively a naked bike. You can see everything inside. You can see all the externals. The spark plugs are easy to access. Transmission oil and primary fluids easy to fill in. There's the oil tank here. I even have a bottle opener in case you want to have a beer while you're working. And then, but right now, this is a special type of bracket. Not a bracket, but it's the bottom of the frame. And I decided to keep the battery as accessible as possible. There's lots of bikes out there, and you have batteries underneath seats. You have batteries in special compartments. On the sidecar bike over here, the batteries underneath that black cover rather. That's kind of hard to remove. But in any event, an old school chopper like this is really easy to access because everything's so simple. So in this formula that I came up with, I decided to weld 2 prongs here. But before I did that, I got just a regular battery box and I put it in between where I knew the battery was going to be, and that was a good measurement for me to position those 2 threaded prongs. And then once these were welded in there, I'm able now to put my new battery in very simply. Slides right in. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about this battery in a second, but slides right in like that. You got to make sure you clear the chain. That's about 1/2 an inch away from the chain. And then I make these brass battery covers that fit on the 2 prongs, the threaded prongs, and they hold the battery in place. I've been doing this for years. It works great. Basically, you put this in the 2 holes like this, like such, and that holds the battery in place. And of course, you attach your wires. One thing that I did learn, though, upon the replacement of this battery, is to make sure that the positive cables, the battery that you buy, the positive is in the location where the positive cable is and the negative cable is, and also in relation to the length of the cable. So in this instance, the positive was on the right hand side but on the back of the battery, not on the front of the battery. That's a very important point because otherwise you can't reach it and then you have to get the battery returned, get a new one. So that is the battery installation, relatively simple. And then another thing to worry about, not really worry about, during the winter time when you have time, like look outside right now, it's snowing, it's cold, I'm not going to be riding this bike in that type of snow. So what I do for all the bikes is I put them onto my stand here, which I got at Harbor Freight for $300. This red hydraulic stand is a must. Not expensive, it's a lift. You need to, if you have a bike at home, you definitely need to get a lift like this. It makes it a lot easier to work on. In any event, so here's Lil Wing. I made this seat. I did another video a few months back about how to make a motorcycle seat. This is the seat that I made. So if you guys are right now building a project chopper, rigid hardtail or whatever, I highly recommend, and of course you guys can do whatever you want, but I highly recommend you use tension springs like what I have here, because I have another rigid bike and I can tell you when you hit a bump you really feel it on your spine and your back. It's a very jarring ride, but in this situation here, while it's still a hardtail, it is relatively soft on your behind, and you have a more of a comfortable ride. And then let's see here else. Also, another thing that people worry about too is sometimes if you have extended forks, like I have this one that's extended, it can do a little bit of flexing. So I recommend getting a fork brace. And I forgot the name of the company here that makes, but I got it from TC Brothers, which I'll put in the description later. And it definitely keeps the fork from flexing any more than it has to. That's very important to get a fork brace. And in the wintertime, when you're not going to be riding, make sure you check your brake fluid. There's the brake fluid reservoir. Make sure you need to add it or even replace the brake fluid for that matter. Your brakes are everything on a bike like this, so you want to make sure you have no issues. And let's take a look here on this side. Yeah, and then change the air filter if the air filter is clogged on your air filter canister right here, which is this my S&S Super E. Change the oil if you need to. My oil was changed a few months back, so I don't really need to do that now. But then check the brake right here, the connectors on the brake, the tension. Make sure that there's proper, brake momentum when you stop. This happens to be the foot brake, which is on the right-hand side. And it's a drum brake, so I make sure it's always tight, where when I apply the brakes, I stop really immediately, but not too much where it goes into a skid. It's also very important too. And I put, when the snow is melted, I ride the bikes in the wintertime, so I don't drain the gas tank. It has gas in it because I start it up and I ride it. I ride all the bikes. I don't believe in really winterizing. If I have a chance to ride these bikes, I will. But also, some of you, like you're making a project bike and you're kind of wondering how to make it a little special. I built a special bracket here in the front. See that black bracket? That is an end cap for a plumbing pipe that I got at Home Depot. And I designed the bracket for this thing, and I had a professional welder weld it on for me because at the time I didn't know how to weld. And this is an old belt from my wife back in her 70s, 80s days when she was a college student. Peace sign belt that I now use as a strap to hold this 1935 fire extinguisher on. And it's a tool kit. It's got some tools in it, but you can also put a real fire extinguisher on there, and you can also put an extra gas canister on here too as well. Again, I'll show you how I did this in some pictures here in a few minutes. But that's something else I did on the bike that kind of gives a little bit of a customization look. And it's But that's something else I did on the bike that kind of gives a little bit of a customization look. And it's also practical. And of course the Pepsi-Cola bottle opener here. What bar hopper wouldn't be complete without a bottle opener that I got from a bar that was being renovated, and they said, yeah, you can have the bottle opener if you want. So I took it. And my wife painted it on there for me. This is really cool. And of course the fender here is what I made myself, and I'll show you guys in a picture here of how I did. Of how I did that. A lot of these parts on this bike were handmade that I did myself. The sissy bar I got from TC Brothers, but it was a raw, it wasn't chromed, didn't have these mounts, it didn't have the circle here. And of course you have to also devise a way to put it on your bike. And that's not exactly easy either. So it took a lot of fabrication, a lot of bending, welding this round ring on there, and welding these two position lugs here to the fender. A lot of extra work. So another thing is, on the sissy bar, when you're going for a long ride, you can bungee cord, sleeping bags, duffel bags, all sorts of different things. But what I've learned, when this bike was my commuter bike back and forth to Boeing, I got an old backpack, and here's the backpack. And the backpack had conventional straps in the back that you can attach to your back, but I wanted to make this into a sissy bar bag. So I cut the straps off, the original straps off the bag, had a shoemaker sew these straps on in kind of like in a pyramid style in the shape of the sissy bar, so that it now slides really easy like that right into the bar, and it stays put. Room for your telephone, computer, lunch. If you're going for a longer ride, you can put a bunch of little, an overnight kit in here and some clothes. And then I always put an extra bungee cord around it to kind of keep it in place. But that's just a really cheap, didn't cost me more than $10 to have the guy sew it, and I put my own patches on. I mean, you could do a lot of things that don't cost a lot of money, or you could spend hundreds of dollars and buy a professional sissy bar bag. But I like to do things myself and kind of be innovative. This little bag here I got from on Amazon. It's got a flashlight, some extra tools, the bike registration, some extra flashlight, extra small items that I use. These I got from Performance Machine. These are really hard to find, these mirrors. And this leather strap here, believe it or not, I got it at the thrift store. It was an old man's tie rack. It had these little hooks for ties back in the 60s. Took that stuff off, re-sewed it, made a little gasoline strap. And the reason for that is, if I spill some gas, now I don't have any paint on this gas tank because it's clear coated and it's just, regular bare metal. But if you had a paint job, like for example that bike there, then you don't want the gasoline to accidentally pour on the paint. So I use these straps as a way to prevent gas from getting on the gas tank. All right. Let's take a look at some other things. So another thing that I did, so like I was telling you earlier, that I make these little brass plaques for the top of the battery so they can be snugged in. I sell them. If you want one, just hit me up and I'll make one for you. They're not expensive, like $15, $20 or so. But I make them by hand on my little drill press over here, and I, trim them. This little leather tool bag, again, I made myself out of some spare leather that I had. Cut it into a position where I knew I was going to have these pockets for a socket set, a T-wrench, another socket, screwdrivers, wrenches, and such. And I made these little pockets, and I had my friendly shoemaker guy here in Marysville sew this whole thing up for me. Cost me $10, free leather, and it works just great. My little leather tool bag, plus it smells really good. This I got from my wife for Christmas one year. Don't know where she got it from, but it's a great bag. This is a side saddle bag. This goes on the side of the bag, and then when I ride, this is where I keep my tools and other important equipment, in addition to the sissy bar bag. I got this bag on the side, sissy bar bag on the back, and then I'm ready to ride. So thanks again for watching, you guys. I hope you guys found this little video helpful in your bike building odyssey for this winter, and also, the prepping the bike and keeping it the fluids clean and everything else clean and everything functioning properly in anticipation of the spring season. Again, I ride the bikes in the wintertime. If it's not going to be snowing, if it's not going to be so bad outside where it's going to risk my life, I'm not going to ride. But mostly, I'll ride the bike throughout the year, whether it's cold or rainy or not, because you need to be on that bike and get your skill levels up. So thanks again for watching Realty Rides, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to do another video soon on how to make that motorcycle seat a little bit more compelling, where I can show you how to actually tool the leather and cut the leather and glue it and make it a little design, make it a little bit more comprehensive. All right, but in the meantime, I wish you guys a safe and happy holiday season. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your comments and all the support, and make sure you hit that subscribe button. I want to get to 200 by the end of the month if I can. I don't think I can, but you never know. I'm already at 118, so let's do what we can to get to 200, and next year, 1,000 today. So thanks again for watching Realty Rides, you guys, and ride safe, and we'll see you guys really soon in the next ride. Happy holidays.